This is an amazing story about a woman named Beatrice Shilling who was born in Waterlooville in England. And she had a talent for fixing things. And she is going to show you how, because God blessed her with this really amazing talent and she used it to help others, it did a lot to save so many people. So this is a book called The Girl Who Could Fix Anything, Beatrice Shilling, a World War II engineer. Waterlooville, Hampshire, England. The girl who could fix anything. Look, there she is. Fiddling around, huh? Just doing her thing. Now look, doesn't that look like a nice little English village? Beatrice Shilling wasn't quite like other children. She preferred tools to sweets. So there's the sweet shop where all her friends are. And she likes to go to Pierce's Hardware and get tools. Tools were so marvelous for making things and fixing things and taking things apart. Beatrice could make anything, fix anything. London Broadcasting Station calling. When she took a thing apart, she put it back together better than before. Look, so she takes this bike apart, she put it back together and made a little engine, and look, whoo! They sped away. That looks like fun. One day, Beatrice and her mother went to London to meet a woman named Miss Partridge. Miss Partridge was an engineer. Her work was bringing electricity to villages, and she wanted a clever girl to help. Beatrice is going to be an apprentice engineer. Look, this is back, she was born in 1909, so this was before there was even electricity in people's houses. So as she got to be a young woman, she got to bring some of the first electricity to the village. Now, it wasn't easy work, and sometimes she made mistakes, but she loved learning something new. Miss Partridge said Beatrice should study at university. Now, you have to realize back then only men were engineers. So when Beatrice showed up, she wasn't like other students. Look, some are very negative, talking about her. Some are excited, some are shocked. They're not used to a girl being in the class. That's okay. She was clever with her books, but even cleverer with tools. And in her spare time, she tinkered with her motorcycle. Then she took it to the racetrack where she found she wasn't quite like other riders either. She was faster. Woohoo! Good job. By the time Beatrice left university, there wasn't much she didn't know about machines. Yet no one seemed to have a job for somebody who wasn't quite like other graduates. So look, what's different? She's a girl, isn't she? And back in those times, they didn't give a lot of breaks to girls. Do you think that stopped her? Let's find out. At last, the Royal Aircraft Establishment hired Beatrice to write handbooks about plane engines. For Beatrice, writing about engines was a boring job. She wanted to work on real engines. Finally, the engine department agreed to give her a try. Beatrice still made mistakes sometimes. But she was as happy as she could be. Look at her, she's tinkering with all the different tools and things. She loved her job, and she had met a man named George. George was quite like Beatrice. George even raced motorcycles too. He was not as fast as Beatrice, but she liked him very much indeed. I like that. The men at work gave Beatrice a lovely wedding gift. Let's see what they gave her. Oh, they're all clapping. Look, her own lovely tool set. That's the perfect gift for Beatrice, isn't it? The next year, Britain went to war. By now, everyone at the Royal Aircraft Establishment knew that Beatrix could fix anything. She was put in charge of a small team, and they dashed around the country showing Royal Air Force pilots how to make their planes start in the coldest weather and stop their engines from icing up. That would be really important, don't you think? So, fighter pilots were like acrobats. They dove and spun and twisted and tried to shoot down the enemy without being shot down themselves. British fighter pilots flew Hurricanes and Spitfires. Both planes had the same type of engine, and that engine had a problem. When a pilot had to dive suddenly, the plane's engine often sputtered or, for a few seconds, simply quit. This was not helpful in the middle of a fight. The trouble seemed clear. Not enough fuel was getting to the engine. It should have been an easy fix, yet nothing seemed to work. And because they stalled, the enemy was able to shoot at them. Day after day, week after week, Beatrice and her team worked late into the night. Look, they're drawing pictures and trying to figure things out and discussing things. Look, she brought fish and chips for everybody because they're working at night and they need some food, and that's the best. You know, it was a big problem for the Royal Air Force. Many engineers were searching for a solution, but Beatrice wasn't quite like other engineers. Look at her. She's taken things apart and brought it home. She's even got airplane parts in her floor all over. Look at that. Writing things down, taking notes. She found the answer. The problem wasn't whether enough fuel got to the engine when the pilot dove. No, the real problem came an instant later when too much fuel was flooding it. Oh my goodness. Changing the engine's design could fix the problem, but that would take time and money, and time and money weren't exactly something the British had because they were in the middle of a war. Look, the enemy was dropping bombs on London and it was burning. Luckily, they had Beatrice. She made a little piece of metal with a hole in it that let through just the right amount of fuel. It was easy, it was cheap, and it could be put on quickly in an airfield without even taking the engine out of the plane. Look at that little washer. That's what we call them. When Beatrice roared up on her motorcycle with her bag of tools, pilots knew they didn't have to worry anymore. Look, before they worried, and then they didn't have to worry anymore. George joined the Air Force, and he was a Royal Air Force pilot. He and Beatrice missed each other terribly. Like other couples separated by the war, they wrote each other letters about what they'd do when they were able to get back together. Maybe they should have a baby. Of course, George and Beatrice weren't quite like other couples. Beatrice decided she would rather have a plane. Look at that. Now this is an author's note. Beatrice Shilling was born in 1909 and died in 1990, and she really did fix everything. Growing up in Hampshire and Surrey, England, she spent her pocket money on hand tools, and she was so clever with her Meccano building set that she won a prize in a national contest set up by Meccano magazine. Frustrated that she couldn't keep up on a bicycle rides with her older sisters, Beatrice started saving up for her first motorcycle when she was just 10 years old. At 14, she had enough for a second-hand, two-stroke Royal Enfield, and she quickly taught herself to take apart the engine and put it back together. Beatrice's father couldn't see what use mechanical ability was for a girl, at least until she wired his bedroom light so he could switch it on and off from bed instead of having to get up. But her mother recognized her talent and encouraged her. Other women also played a key role in Beatrice's success. Dame Caroline Haslett, secretary of the Women's Engineering Society, sent a letter to girls' schools all over England advertising the electrical apprenticeship that Beatrice won. Miss Margaret Partridge and a fellow engineer, Margaret Robotham, gave Beatrice textbooks and urged her to apply to the Victoria University of Manchester, and the London National Society for Women's Service gave her an interest-free loan to help pay her tuition, as the engineering program offered scholarships only to men. Despite graduating with all honors in electrical engineering and going on to earn her Master's of Science doing research on internal combustion engines, Beatrice found it hard to get a job in her field. Hearing that she placed first at Brooklands racetrack on a motorcycle she had modified herself, one interviewer said, "I suppose the men let you win." Ugh. Even after being hired by the Royal Aircraft Establishment, Beatrice faced discrimination. Sent to an airplane factory to learn about its engines, she was told that the chief engineer did not allow women inside the building, and she had to duck out of sight whenever he passed by. Beatrice was an enthusiastic member of the Women's Engineering Society, which helped her get her start, and she encouraged other women to become engineers. She broke barriers, from defying a law against women working at night to entering the all-male senior mess club and dining hall for the higher-ups at the Royal Aircraft Establishment. Beatrice never understood why anything should matter other than how well she did at work. Like everyone in Britain at the time, Beatrice learned to make do with what she had on hand. Years afterwards, she wrote about a fuel experiment done with only a thermos and 2 sides of a foolscap paper for the math. She noted with pride that the Americans later spent $100,000 to obtain the same results. Beatrice's marriage to George Naylor was remarkable for its equality, its happiness, and the variety of engine parts scattered around their home. It was said that Beatrice made her own wedding ring of stainless steel, though it wasn't true, though she did keep a lathe in the parlor. It was also said that having won her own gold star for going faster than 100 miles per hour at Brooklands racetrack in 1934, Beatrice refused to marry George until he had a gold star too. Like Beatrice, George preferred airplanes to infants, and the couple never ended up buying a plane, but Beatrice adored learning to fly. After her marriage, Beatrice was still called Miss Shilling to her face. Behind her back, some of the men she worked with called her Tilly, after the no-frills utility trucks used in World War II. Beatrice was indeed much like a Tilly, small but strong. When she tightened a nut, even George couldn't loosen it. She was practical and good at getting a job done. Particularly as she got older, those who didn't know her often underestimated her. Years after the war, the editor of Motorsports magazine took Beatrice to a meeting of the British Motorcycle Club. Everyone ignored her, he remembered, until we told them that she was a gold star 100-mile-per-hour holder. To those who knew her, Beatrice was a legend. She could tell what was wrong with the engine just by listening to it run. Even as a senior member of the Royal Aircraft Establishment, according to the Telegraph, she was renowned for rolling up her sleeves and getting her hands dirty. Shop workers respected the fact that she could braze a butt joint between 2 pieces of copper with the skill of a fitter. Although most famous for her achievements during World War II, especially inventing the restrictor that saved the Spitfire and the Hurricane after the war, Beatrice did pioneering work on supersonic engines, rocket fuel, and even tiny inflatable spy planes to be dropped by parachute with secret agents. And sadly, these didn't pan out. She even helped design and build a bobsled for the Royal Air Force's Olympic team. She also worked to improve runway safety and investigated accidents. After a crash that killed 23 people, including 8 members of the Manchester United football team, it was Beatrice who cleared the pilot's name, showing that the crash was caused by a runway slush that slowed the plane on takeoff, not by the pilot failing to de-ice his wings. In 1949, Beatrice was honored by the King George VI with the Order of the British Empire. 20 years later, however, she retired from the Royal Air Force aircraft establishment without ever reaching a top post, such jobs held only by men. Beatrice had other things to think about. She had a new Jaguar, the fastest car in Britain. Still, if she took apart the engine, perhaps she could have made it go just a little bit faster. I love this story about a young woman who had a talent and a gift, and even though it took her a long time and she had to be patient and show people how she was able to use her talent, she blessed and helped a lot of people's lives.